atlases of William Hague. In the beginning, I studied the atlases that explain the coast of America, and later I found the atlases that explain the coast of Asia. One moment, and I show you the maps. But in the beginning, maybe, because of that, I put it's a work in progress because I have more questions than answers. Yeah. For example, let me put the laser point. We can begin with the advances of the English from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And I wanted to talk about how the map makers got involved in the representation of the Trans-Pacific connections, but especially from the perspective of America, because in the beginning that was I was studying. Because in the beginning we can find how English start to advance in the Caribbean. In 1655, they captured Jamaica and became Jamaica as a new platform to attack the Spanish settlements, especially in Central America, because they start to put camps to cut logwood. So they start to advance in that area, and eventually they got interested in attack the coast of the Pacific, especially Peru, because Peru was the most important producer of silver. And because of that, we have between 1668 and 1671, there were an attack from the Jamaica to Portobelo and Panama, and the English captured the Central America, and from there, they start to attack the coast of Peru. And in those attacks, they advance, obtain booties, even obtain ships, and they use those ships to attack different coasts along America, so especially South America. And there were one important booty in those travelers that was this ship, Nuestra Señora del Rosario. And this was a very important capture because in that ships there were a book with maps. And those maps represent the coast from the California until the Patagonia. And there were Peruvian maps. And immediately they sent those maps to England in order to William Hague to translate them and publish them. So because of that, we have the atlases of William Hague. And there were a lot of map makers that also start to represent the advances, the English advances, because there were a lot of narratives, and the sailors asked to the map makers to help them to represent the travels. So because of that, we have this kind of maps. This is the map, for example, of the expedition of Bartholomew Sharp. And this expedition was that one that captured the Nuestra Señora del Rosario in front of Guayaquil. And we can see the travel. They advance through Central America, they capture ships over here, and with those ships, they attack different parts of the coast of America. And this was the first English travel, to return from the Pacific to the Atlantic for this area. So they represent this advance, this track in this map. And with those maps that they capture in Peru, they start to represent this atlas. We can see the first page of the Atlas of William Hague, and this first atlas is from the 1683. And we can see how they recognize how these maps were maps following the Spanish manuscripts, because there was the Spanish manuscripts, there were the first and most important influence or have a lot of information about the Pacific coast, and eventually the English start to compare this information with the information that they obtain through these own advances. And there were a lot of editions of this Atlas of William Hague, and we can see in the beginning they represent the travel of Sharp. But eventually, they start to change a little bit some things. For example, in this part, you can see New Granada. that was a mistake because this was New Spain, and we can see here Acapulco. And there are only a few years of difference in those maps. Or the travel of shark is the same, more or less the same. But we can see also the same representation of the Potosí, because we know the Potosí was very important place. There were differences with names, for example, the Darien, and here is Nicoya, or the representation of a local, an indigena that could be a protector of the area, or just a representation of a savage. And the exotic area that represent America with the parrots, it's a thinking. But eventually, in those atlases, the English start to increase the information and the representation of the Pacific. As we can see here in the next atlas, it's also an atlas of William Hague, and we can see more or less the same, Nova Granada, Potosí, the travel of Sharp, but we can see also a little thing interesting, how this, the direction of this boat, because as I said, this travel was the first that traveled from the Pacific to the Atlantic, and we can see the track of this boat, and the boat goes to the east. But when the English start to represent the Pacific, we can see more information about this ocean. For example, here we can see a representation of the travel of Pedro Sarmiento de Gamboa, that was the expedition that discovered the Solomon Islands, for example. After Magellan, they traveled through South America, and eventually they arrived to the coast of Asia. And this idea to represent more and more the Pacific continue, as we can see in this map. Also, in this map, we can see the travel of Sarmiento, but also the representation of the Marianas, well, the Ladrón Islands, the archipelago of San Lázaro that was incorrectly in an incorrect position. But the idea is more or less the same. The map is not important because their accuracy is important, because they provide a lot of information, a lot of narratives, a lot of intentions about the advances, for example, and this more or less is the idea of the atlases of William Hague. We can see in this other version also the travel of Sarmiento de Gamboa. We can see better the archipelago de San Lázaro, the Ladrón Islands, for example, but also a little bit internationalization of the Pacific with Japan and the Company Land. No, that means the representation of or the presence of the Dutch in that area. And why is important this? Because we need to remember that map makers were related with the navigations, but there were a different relation, map makers, travelers. It was different if we do a comparison with Spain or, for example, the Dutch. In this case, map makers, most of the time, the important map makers were related with Thames School. That were there was no a school. There were just map makers, private, positioned along the river, and they usually sell their work to travelers. So if a pilot or a sailor asks to the map makers to do a map about its own travel, the map maker do that and also receive a payment for that. And a lot of those map makers have a lot of connection with, for example, sailors, but also people important in England, for example, Daniel Defoe, Herman Moll, William Dampier, and there are a lot of stories that these kind of map makers or people who talk about travelers usually meet in this Jonathan Coffee House. So this is important because, for example, Kathy Parker explained how England didn't have an institution where people who do this kind of maps were together, talk about the maps, or receiving a payment for the government to do these materials. In Spain, we have that with the Casa de Contratación. The Dutch have a particular or a private institution that was the Hydrographic Office of the BOC, and they make a lot of maps about the Pacific. But in the case of England, they don't have that kind of institute. And because of that, in the 17th century, when the maritime expansion of England started to increase in different ocean spaces, we can see the same the name of the same map makers in different books. And we can see this process with the advances of the East Indian Company and also of the English that advanced first in Jamaica and then in other parts of America. And in this context, we can find William Hack, and even he had a promotion, and he became a captain. He received the name of captain, and even it was a little bit difference because in the beginning was Hack without a e, and later it was a Hack with an e in the name. I don't know why, but it's the same person. So he started to publish some travelers, as we can see here. He published the travel of, and we can see here, no, Hack, with the E. And he published a collection of original voyages, and the voyages were of the Captain Sharp, that the person who captured the book of maps, and Captain Rogers. And this is a very important travel because in this travel, Good captured one Manila galleon for the first time in the 18th century, and after the capture of Cavendish, and that capture was of in 16th century. So the objective is a little late, but the idea that I wanted to explain is how in these maps of William Hack, we can see the space between Formosa and Luzon, because apparently it's a very important area for the navigations, but for the navigations that came from the coast of America, not from the coast of, or not came from the Indian Ocean, but from the coast of America, because those travelers crossed the Pacific, maybe stop in Mariana Islands, and eventually they reach the coast of China, and they pass in for this area. Because of that, this area were represented in the maps, and we can see that process in the atlases of William Hack. So this is important because we can see the representations, the narratives of the travel, and we can talk about this kind of studies. For example, John Ackerman, that is one person that study atlases, and he mentioned how the collection of maps became a narrative of the cartography, or a cartography that became a history. And usually the maps represents the travel. So the order of the maps is not because they are pretty, it's because represent the travel of the sailors, no? Or represent a narrative, represent a history. So it is important to understand how the maps were ordered in the atlases. And we can see that in the atlases of William Hack. So in the Pacific, studying the Pacific and studying the atlases of William Hack, we can see the process of advance of the English from the Atlantic and also from the Indian Ocean. And to understand that, maybe we need to understand or remember the relevance of the area in question. So we need to remember that in the 17th century, the Spanish had a position in the north part of the Formosa. In the 16th century, there were the Portuguese who advances and start to represent, from the European perspective, this island that they named Formosa or Hermosa. No? The Spanish named it Hermosa, but the Portuguese is Formosa. And that was the name that was represented mostly, or Taiwan later. And we can see how in the 17th century, the Spanish put a position, a settlement in the north part of the Formosa, because this was important to the connections, not only with Fujian, but also with Japan, because we need to remember in the 17th century, Portugal and Spain were under the same king or monarchy, three kings, the Felipes, or Philips, sorry. In that 17th century, the Dutch also advanced in different positions and attacked different settlements of the Portuguese, and they captured a lot of places like Batavia, and from Batavia, they start to advance also to the Pacific, and eventually they put a settlement also in Formosa, in the south part of Formosa. That was really important because this was the part that connect with the continental China. But eventually, the Dutch expelled to the Spanish, and later the Chinese expelled to the Dutch. So Taiwan became a settlement under the administration of Chinese. But we can explain a difference about this settlement. As Eugenio Borao explained, there were different moments about the history of Formosa in the 17th century, 16th and 17th century. And we can see how in the beginning there was a place to do some trade between China and Japan, but illegally, because when Japan and China stopped their relationship in the 16th century, Taiwan apparently became a position that when the Chinese and Japanese do some illegal trade or not official trade. But later, when the Portuguese arrived, they start to do the trade between China and Japan, and later the Dutch do the same, and later even the Spanish do the same. So there were a lot of connections, maritime connections around the Taiwan. But this stopped when Japan closed their doors to the Iberian trade and concentrate only in the Dutch trade. And also when Spain and Portugal separated. So in that moment, there were no more necessity to go to the north. So these positions, the Spanish position and the interest even of the Portuguese in the north were reduced. And because of that, the representation of Taiwan exist, but there were no more trade or representation of the trade, Iberian trade, in those areas. But for example, this author, I don't know the name exactly, Su Meng, he explained how Taiwan still was very important in the connection, in maritime connections between China and Philippines, because we need to remember the Sangleys that do the trade with the Philippines came most of the time from Fujian. So in this connection, apparently Taiwan was important. But in those processes, we need to remember the advances of the English, especially the East Indian Company. And they advanced because they established an alliance with the Portuguese, so they start to trade with Macau, but eventually they start their own trade in Canton. So they advance from the Atlantic, through the Indian Ocean, and eventually they reach the coast of the Asian Pacific. And in this moment is when we can see how start the idea, or maybe the suggestions, that the trade or the connection, the maritime connections that came from America, maybe can be connected with these connections that came from the Indian Ocean. And we can see some examples of those ideas with some travelers. One of the most important travelers in this moment was William Dampier. I don't know if you know William Dampier, but he was really important, and he wrote a lot of histories about navigation. And he explained how in his advances, maybe could be a connection with Asia. And maybe he mentioned, for example, in his book, he represents the book. By the way, the map was made by Hermann Moll, and Hermann Moll was one of the most important map makers in that moment. And he mentioned how it could be really useful to use Mindanao and later use the Bashi Islands. And the Bashi Islands was the Batan, but the name Bashi was put for the Dutch because they mentioned in one of those islands there were a beverage, alcoholic beverage that was called Bashi. So the Dutch named all the islands, 5 islands, I think, as the Bashi. And in the Dutch cartography, we can find that name, but in the Spanish cartography, we found the name Batan or Batanes. And we can see the travel, no? The William Dampier expedition, where Dampier was, crossed the Marianas Islands, and he was, by the way, in love with the boats of Mariana Islands. Even he mentioned how he used one of them, and the triangular veil was really interesting. He really enjoyed the visit in Marianas. And later they arrived to Mindanao. He mentioned how in Mindanao the people was not under the administration of the Spanish, so maybe it could be a good position for the English. And he heard for another people that some English pass over there and even do some trade. So it could be possible to use that islands. But later, they had some problems, and they leave, by the way, the captain of the ship in some island. And then they return and go to the north. They visit the Bashi Islands. He mentioned the Bashi were really important. And later they returned to England. And obviously the travel was published. And in this context, we have the Atlas of William Hack. And we can see then how maybe in England could be discussions about how the connections from the Atlantic could be connected with the advances along the coast of Asia. And it was this atlas or those atlas of William Hack that explain more or less those ideas. And we can find some explanations about these advances related also with the travelers. For example, Jose Maria Garcia Redondo, he explained more or less this idea: the maps represent the travel. So these atlases, is important to mention, start in the Cape of Good Hope and finish in Jamaica, one of them, and the other two versions of this atlas finish in Formosa. So that mostly gave the idea of the relevance of the area. But this is important because who did the maps that represent the Cape of Good Hope until Japan? First of all, the Portuguese, and later the Dutch. So more or less happened the same. The Atlas of William Hack that represent the coast of America was based in the Spanish manuscripts, and this atlas was based in the maps of the Portuguese and later of the Dutch. And we can see more or less that in those maps. We need to remember that the Portuguese advanced through the Cape of Good Hope. Later, they put different factories along the Indian Ocean, and later they put a position here in Batavia, and later they advance to Macau. They represent Formosa. They had a connection in Japan, and they represent these connections. And in the 17th century, the last part of the 16th century, and along the 17th century, we can find how the English start to attack the Portuguese, capture some settlements, Portuguese settlements, and also they advance along the Indian Ocean, like in the Pacific. They explore this area that they named New Holland, and they reach, or they had the connection with the Japanese. And also we can see here the Company Land, that we saw in the other map. And in these advances, we can see also the representation of Formosa, but it's important to mention that at least I know someone found three versions of this atlas. We saw different versions about the atlas of American coast, but in this case, Chet Van Duzer found three versions. And these are the versions. One of them is in the Library of Congress, and these two are here in the British Library. The bigger one is in the Library of Congress, and we can see the travel, how start in Cape of Good Hope and finish in Japan. But this is really interesting because they advance to Japan and then return to Sonda, and later they start to advance to the north until the coast of Formosa, or the coast of China. We are going to see this. And the second and the third one finish in Taiwan, Formosa y Taiwan. I don't know why. There are less pages in those atlases here in England, but more or less is important, or let us think about why they finish in Formosa or Taiwan and not in Japan. These are the maps. We can see some elements that are very important. The atlas is really, really beautiful. And the atlas in the Library of Congress is online, so you can see it if you want. So we can see the representation. Sorry, I turned the maps because it's better in this way. We can see a lot of things, and we can see the coast of Cantan o Cantao or Canton, that means China, Formosa. The little islands here, one of them was Pescadores or Pigu, I think is the name. That was really important because it's a really important position between China and Formosa, no? And it was important to the Dutch, and later apparently to the Sanglaise. And here is Lusonia, no? The Luzon, the island of Luzon, without islands in between, no? There are not Bataan, there are not Babuyan, etc. But we can see here, well, the leaks are English. That means it was a appropriation of the information and a translation to the English. It's Lusonia, but we can see here is a Spanish position. And in this atlas, we can see the relevance of Formosa because they put had put two pages. This is the half of Formosa. This is the second half. So maybe it's important because there are a lot of information around this island. Apparently, the English they didn't use this island, but there is important why they represented. Maybe there were a plan, maybe no, maybe it was just a geographical position, but it's important to think about this kind of representations. This is Formosa, the second part, as we mentioned. These elements are really important also because these positions, the island, the deep of the water that was important for the navigation. There were elements relevant to the navigation. We can see here another representation with this element, the deep of the water. That is really important because mostly, for example, I don't know in other parts, but in American coast, this representation with numbers was of the 18th century. But in the 17th century, the representations was different because the representations were about the quality of the the sand. Thank you. Sí, sorry, arena era. The sand, or if they are with frogs or they are really soft, something like that. No, it was the quality of the underwater, no, but not the profundity, the deep. And in this representation, it was important the deep of the water. No, it's a very Portuguese representation because we can see this element is like a portulano, the names in the interior of the island, the earth. Just because it's pretty, we can see the south part of the Philippines. Here is Mindoro, Paragua, or the name Padagua, Padawan. But we can see also Lusonia, and this is important because this is the San Bernardino Strait, and that was the area where the Manila galleons pass. Some elements that we can discuss is more or less the deep, as I mentioned, the numbers of the profundity or of the water. The separation between areas, for example, we can see Cape of Bojeador is the north part of the Philippines, and this is Formosa. As I mentioned, the English appropriation of the measuring because it's in English leaves. This is important because, as we mentioned before, it was a translation to English, but not all the words are in English. As we can see, Isla da Prata in Portuguese, or Pedra Blanca in Portuguese, and something here that I can pronounce because it's in Dutch. And I asked someone to tell me what it means, but I don't remember. Means, no, I don't remember. Well, doesn't matter. And here we can see the representation of Manila as a fortress with the flag of Spain. But here there are, I don't remember, in Dutch, maybe it means land occupied or land to habitate or with a settlement, something like that. If someone know Dutch, please let us know, please understand this. But we can see here also the tracks. The tracks are really important because the tracks represent how another sailors can follow the travels. And we can see here how there were outside the Macau Islands, and then Macau here, Macau City, but eventually the tracks continue to Canton City. No? And this is really interesting also, and we can discuss about that. The Spanish representation was very European with a castle, but the representation of Macau is very Asiatic. It's the same as Canton. And in the beginning, I found this, I don't know if you see these columns. I thought there could be padrões reais, that there were the torres, the towers, the Portuguese towers, but I just in the library found in the landscapes of China, they have this kind of towers. So maybe it's just a representation of a Chinese position. And here we have different towers. I don't know. Everything is, we can discuss everything. We can interpret it whatever we want. This is another version, the version that was here in the British Library. And this is really interesting because in this case, this atlas has a Trans-Pacific map, no? And we can see how in this line was represented the track of the Manila galleons that start in the Philippines, advance to the north, close to the Japan, the coast of Japan. This is the current Kuroshibo, and later they found the current the Pacific, and they reached the coast of America, well, the New Spain, and later they arrived to the coast of Acapulco, and they returned passing to the Mariana Islands since the 1668, when they start the missions of the Jesuits in Mariana Islands, and they returned to the Cape of the Espiritu Santo stretch. But we can see here is really interesting how is New Holland, so it was a representation of the Dutch. The Japan is here. It was in English, but also have Portuguese and English names. We can see we are going to see this, and this little line is really interesting because apparently represent an area that wasn't used, because we need to remember in this area it was important because when the explorations to Asia started from New Spain, in the beginning, the sailors go to here, close to the Ecuador, because here there are the alisios, the current, the winds. The name was alisios in Spanish. So these winds go to the east, to the west, so that the travels can go over there. But when they try to return to New Spain, they have to go to the north, because when they try to do that return to this area or along this area, they fail. So they found the return when they arrived to the north in the 1565 with Urdaneta, no, the travel of Urdaneta. So maybe this representation or this line like this, like zigzag, represents to the sailors that they must not go over this area. We can see here, for example, no, the wind, and because the wind, they have to go no against the wind, but try to elude that wind. But other kind of elements are the influence of the Portuguese. For example, the names Terra dos Papues is in the south. The representation of the Philippines is the same in the Teixeira, in the map of Teixeira that we saw before. And more or less we can see is the same representation, even when this map was after the map that we saw before, and also when we saw this zigzag line. And this is the one of the last part of this atlas, with the representation of China, No Cantao, China, and Formosa. And we can see another kind of islands that represent the exterior part of the ocean. For example, this Dos Reis Magos is a really important island that represent or was like a marker in the navigations, because most of the time people who travel to New Spain goes outside the coast of the Philippines and the Formosa, go to the north, and they found this kind of elements. These islands represent the areas that they have to travel, more or less. We can see the representation of the deep. And this is the third one, and the third one is from this year. What was the name? 7th century. Yes, but then you know them. And we can see more or less the same representation, China, Formosa, with colors, the deep, the names. Here you can see the island, Pejo or Pescadores in the Spanish or Portuguese representation. And why this was important in this kind of atlases? Because the English were interested in advance also to the Pacific, but from the coast of China, the Indian Ocean. And we can see those when they try to do that, when in 1702 they captured Pulo Condor, no? And they became Pulo Condor. Here is Pulo Condor, and they became this little island in like a factory. But eventually the Muslim kill all the English there, and later they tried to occupy Balambangan. but in the middle of the 18th century. But we can see how the English were interested in advance from the coast of the Indian Ocean to the Pacific through this part, the part of Asia, and eventually they tried to connect them with the American coast. And this was really important, the area, maybe, no? I need to insist that all of these are just in my imagination. So, for example, this is one map of William Hack. No, map of Dampier, exactly. Thank you. And we can see how in this map, we can see the currents. And we can see how the currents in the wind can be used to cross the Pacific. No? And most of the time, the English advanced to the coast of the America, arrived to the Alisios that I mentioned before. They cross the Pacific. They arrive to Guam or another island in Mariana Islands, and they advance to the coast of America. This, I don't know why it's ugly, but we can see here the currents in the interior part of the coast, in the interior part of China Sea. And this is really important information to travel from the Indian Ocean to the north. And these currents finish in Formosa. Sorry, I don't know why this is ugly, but this is Formosa. These are the currents and the winds. So we can see how could be possible to travel in the interior part of the Asian Sea of China. But those currents or winds finish here in Formosa. But maybe in these travels, we can see how if the ships came from the Trans-Pacific connections, they can pass over here. And we can see that because there are travels to mention those travelers. For example, I need to return here. Shelbock, John Shelbock, that advanced to the coast of the Pacific, American Pacific, because in the context of a war, they received the order to attack the coast of Hispanic America. So they captured a boat. He made a lot of booties, captures in general. And later they go to Macau. He want to go to Macau. And he passed between Luzon and Formosa. And he mentioned in his diary how in this area, even when the travel was really ugly and everybody was sick and tired and with hungry and everything, we can see how they found a very strong current. No, so maybe that was the reason, because the English passed through this area. And also in the travel of Anson was mentioned this situation, how they were in perplexity because they found that current that driven them to the neighborhood of the Bashi Islands. No? So that means the north part of Luzon and the south of Formosa. This was a travel of a French sailor in 1709. We need to remember when the Bourbon arrived to the throne of Spain, they have new relation with French, between France and Spain. And because there was a war, the French received the license to do trade with the coast of Peru and Chile. So they arrived through the coast of the Magellan area, Cape Horn, and they do this connection. They trade a lot in this coast, and eventually they advance to Canton. Supposedly they going to be here and later go to Pondicherry. That was his position in India. And we can see how they use this area also. And they mention there are narratives when we can find how there were a lot of French that were using Guam, and later they went to Canton through this area. And they mentioned the Bashi Islands also. Not Formosa, but the Bashi Islands. This is the travel of Shellbock, and we can see how he passed, he stopped in the Marianas, not in Guam, in another island, and eventually they go close to Formosa Island, and they go to Macau. And it was really interesting because he mentioned, and also in the travel of Anson was mentioned, how they were close to Formosa, and the people there start to put fires to yeah, but to keep his attention, maybe because they want to invite us to stop in Formosa, but the English didn't do that, and they continue travel to Macau and then Canton. But it was really important. Why the people do that? No? Why the people try to call to the English to stop there? And well, I don't know the answer, but today I was reading about Taiwan, and apparently there was a chaos because the Chinese position was only in the west part of the island, and in other parts there were a lot of settlements, a lot of towns, not under the Chinese administration. No, so there were a lot of rebellions in the island. Apparently, I don't know. I insist. I'm just reading about that. So we can finish with this. I am more questions. I have more questions than answers. So in the case of the atlases of William Hague, they represent a synthesis of the foreign information that could be helpful in the English advances along the Pacific, from the Atlantic and also from the Indian Ocean. Apparently, the idea was not to use Formosa because there were a lot of problems there, but maybe could be a position, a geographical position that could be helpful in the transit from the Marianas to the coast of China. Maybe were more important the use of the Bashi, because the English stopped in the Bashi and they trade a little bit there because they receive food and animals and something like that. And they describe the people there. They mention just a little bit the people in Formosa, but we don't know. Maybe they have some plans, but never happened. But the idea of the area that could be useful in the transit, in the Trans-Pacific connection, maybe we can talk about that. And the Atlas of William Hague represent the moment when the English advance along the Pacific, how the moment when they receive a lot of information, they translate this kind of information, they complement this foreign information from the Spain, from the Portuguese, from the Dutch, and they translate it to English and even compare and do corrections in English. And this was a really important moment in the English advances that increased along the 18th century. So this is I insist, just an idea. No, I need to study more about these atlases, and that's all. Sorry. Sorry. Any questions?
So the one with the bluish thing is in the Library of Congress. The maps.
The first one, yes.
Yes. Okay.
And it's online. You can find it. It's really
This one.
no.
Okay.
Yes. This one. Yeah, this is the first one, and apparently is the oldest one, and is online, and it's very. It's I haven't mentioned, but it's aquatic. It's a maritime representation because you can see how the relevant part of the maps was the water, not necessarily the air or the land. And I already mentioned it was Portuguese in this first one. It is very Portuguese It's very like a portulano, no? With the names in the interior of the land. Mhm.
I have a lot of questions, but I'll speak in Spanish first and then English.
Okay,
it'll be
thank
easier
you.
for me.
Yeah.
So, tengo un montón de preguntas para usted. Primero, yo creo que es muy como interesante para mí. ¿Cuáles temas es tu tesis? ¿Y por qué o dónde está la inspiración de este proyecto? Porque aquí tenemos muchísimos mapas. Pero ¿por qué? ¿Verdad? ¿Cuál es como el gran proyecto? Y pienso que he leído tus investigaciones anteriores, como su proyección en 2022 para Cristina. ¿Y cómo es este proyecto conectado con
aquel?
Con nosotros, con la información? So, eso es como, ¿cuál es la inspiración? So, what is the inspiration for these maps? What do you think will be the thesis for your project? And how is this connected to your previous research you presented at the 2022 conference on Philippine studies and the absence, let's say, of Batanes and Babuyan becomes the major thought? Y segundo, lo que me sorprende muchísimo es la ausencia e invisibilidad de México. Cuando estamos aprendiendo la historia de Filipinas, lo que es más importante son los galeones de Manila, entre Manila y Acapulco, y obviamente también Veracruz y México DF. Pero en todos estos mapas no tenemos nada de los ciudades de México. ¿Por qué no tenemos nada de México? Pienso que he visto California, Nueva Granada, Perú, pero es posible que los ingleses no tienen interés en México y en este etapa tenemos Nueva España, todo esto está administrado desde México, pero ¿por qué no tenemos mexicanos en el punto de vista de los piratas británicos? So, where is Mexico in this narrative? The absence of Acapulco, Mexico City, and Veracruz is very strange because when we study the history of the Philippines, Manila Galleon trade is a Mexican-Philippine story. And the role of Mexican administrators on the Philippines is very important, but seems to be uninteresting to the British, who have California, New Granada, Peru on these maps, but there are no Mexican markings. So I was curious as to why that was.
No, there are a lot of information. Yeah. For example, about my trajectory, I started to study the coast of New Spain and the navigations along the Pacific, and I start studying the ports, the harbors, the work there, the workers, the food, I don't know, a lot of things connected with inland. But eventually, I start to advance along the Pacific, and because of that, I finished in the connections with the Philippines. I'm not studying the Philippines. I study the connections, the navigations, and the Pacific. And right now, I'm studying the Pacific as a central part of as a historic area. And we can see that perspective through maps. And because of that, I need to study how there were a lot of connections, the representation of those navigations, and the dialogue between the English, the Dutch, the Portuguese, etc. And I arrived with Cristina because a friend of mine told me about the event related with the conquest, the occupation of the English. And I was studying that because it's really important, because that occupation changed the navigations, no? And the connections with the New Spain and the defensive activities and a lot of things. So I continue interested in those connections in the north part of the Pacific, because my position is New Spain. So I'm most interested in the Pacific North and not in the Pacific South. And there are a lot of studies that mention how there was not one Pacific, but there are a lot of Pacifics. And those Pacifics were related with the people, with the geography, with the food, the currents, the weather, with a lot of things. So I traveled just the north because the part was most related with New Spain. No, that's why I finished with those events. And no, there are a lot of information, and there were a lot of interest of the English in Mexico. But we can see a lot of those interested in the Caribbean. Even there were, for example, there is a researcher in Mexico, and she studied in Cambridge, and her thesis is the Aztecs in the history of England, for example. And it's really interesting because in the narrative of the English, they represent the Aztec as the non plus ultra civilization, and how the Spanish destroy that civilization, and how the English can help them and reconstruct the population and the cities and everything, and how they represent how they can advance and conquest the territory of America. And more or less it's the same narrative that we can find in the English in the Philippines or in the coast of the Pacific. The book, for example, of Christy Flannery, she mentioned how, for example, one good work that the Spanish made was evangelization, and how they make to the people, the locals, how they think about the pirates as they are bad. They destroy everything. They kill every person that they found, and that idea was used also in the Philippines. So we can see how the English more or less have the same narrative, that they are going to save the local population from the yoke of the Spanish, the bad administration of the Spanish. But they didn't succeed because in those populations, the English represent the pirates, the bad, the killers. So didn't happen, no? But they were really interesting, and we can find a lot of information and a lot of interest of the English, from the English to the American coast. And we can see that also in the narratives of these pirates, because, for example, William Dampier all the time mentioned the coast of New Spain. In that moment, the most important Spanish territory in America was Peru, because Peru was the principal producer, thank you, of silver. But New Spain was really important because they pay for the defensive positions in the Caribbean. They pay for Philippines, for Marianas. They pay for the evangelization to the north. There were a lot of mines in the north, and the English, they were interesting because eventually they tried to find the connection between the Atlantic and the Pacific through the north with the Anian Strait, the Fonte Strait. So no, there are a lot of information. Maybe the problem is, if you are interested in Asia, most of the time you study Asia from the Indian Ocean and the advances from the Indian Ocean. And maybe we can share the connections, more or less.
Any other question? See, Alexander Del Ripo established a hydrographic, so he would be the first.
Darling? Yeah.
So he's later now.
Yeah. But it's really interesting because he was interested in the Balambangan position, the conquest of Philippines, the connections between the Philippines and the California. So they make a lot of maps about that, for example. Even he suggests the construction of a shipyard in California that helps the advances to Philippines. And he mentioned if the English capture Manila, they are going to trade a lot with joy, and everybody is going to be happy in American Ghost. More or less, those ideas are from the English. No, they have really a lot of imagination about how people are going to receive them with joy and happiness. And I don't know, maybe it was just a narrative that they need to use to advance in the ocean.
Because they felt like they were a better empire. They always thought the Spanish were a backward empire.
Because they mentioned they are going to trade without restrictions, without the evangelization, without the Inquisition, no?
The
But-
Inquisition was a-
Uh-huh. Even there are some narratives. For example, we from the Spanish documents, we can see how people Spanish under Spanish administration was feared from the pirates, because the pirates were murderers or something. But there are another narratives where the pirates or the English, they didn't think in himself like a pirates. They think in himself like a traders, and they have the good intentions to trade with the Spanish, but the bad Spanish didn't let them, so they have to rob the boats and the food and everything. But they have a lot of fear to be captured, because if they were captured, they are going to be to the Inquisition. So there were cases when some English were captured and they suicide himself, or they kill himself, because they don't want to be in the Inquisition. Mhm. So there are narratives in different parts.
So are there narratives about the French being in, but I guess that's your article in the book.
Uh-huh.
But are there like narratives of them settling in Batanes? Or not really? Just
Yeah.
passing?
No, there are. In fact, there were a French that was captured in the beginning of the 18th century, was captured in Manila. And he told to the authorities, no, there are a lot of French crossing and passing to the area. And he even shared their maps with that information. And there are a book, but I don't remember the name, Denis Nandin. He had a book about the French traders in the Pacific, and most of them passed in the north part of the Pacific. So in the first part of the 18th century, because the relation between the Bourbons, a lot of French crossed along that area, but they stopped because they have a lot of problems, and eventually the Spanish prohibited the French sailors over there. But they continue past from the south, the Magellan area, cross the Pacific, and went to Canton, because they have to. They need to do trade over there, because everybody want to go to China. No. And had porcelain. No.
And silk.
Yeah.
No questions?
Yeah. Well, thank you.
We can invite you over to the carry on, our school in the other room. And we can just continue, conversations there.
I stopped the
Okay.
I closed the presentation, but not the connection. I don't know if you want to say anything.
¿Cuándo? ¿Dónde? Oh, en la conferencia. ¿Cuándo?